the curve. Of course, I am Robert Ruiz, and today we're going to speak about, well, actually, I'm not going to speak about, actually answering a question. Answering a couple of questions and that were brought to me on Twitter. And the first question I'm going to talk about, it's an interesting topic, only because this movement didn't quite disappear. However, it's on the back burner at this moment in time. And Michael, who hit me up on Twitter, and we were chatting up on some stuff on my previous sessions that I had, and he asked, what happened to the feminist movement, hashtag Me Too, and Mike, let me tell you, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. So back in 2013, 14, this movement was moving on, was getting big. And what did they do? The movement always existed, right? There was always a feminist movement, uh, you know, back even up into the 80s with Jane Fonda. However, when what happened was they used the feminist movement. So what I mean by used, those powers that be that needed to silence some people and keep some people quiet or even oust some people, right? So what happens is when somebody gives you something, power, uh, a job, position, that person controls you most of the time, right? Unless, of course, you own the thing or you own whatever you're running. So what I mean by this is let's take a look at how they use the Me Too movement and the feminist movement against Harvey Weinstein. Now, Harvey was a big scumbag, excuse my language. Um, he did rape and sexually assault many, many, many women throughout his years. However, he was one of the most powerful men in Hollywood at that time, and nobody could touch him. So what they do? They used the Me Too movement, which is the feminist movement, to strike him down, right? So, you know, it's funny. He got prosecuted or convicted with, or his main conviction was a person who was called Jane Doe number one. So the person didn't even have a name, but I think it was some European model who was raped by Harvey Weinstein back in 2013. So they kind of like set him up, right? Now these things are true. He was a scumbag again, and he did rape women and really, conducted sexual assault on these women for jobs and stuff. But this was all brushed under the rug until they needed it to come out. This wasn't a secret. Many people out there could have came out, but they didn't. Right? They came out when asked to come out. Right? A lot of people stood quiet for years and years and years. And then it just took that one, Jane Doe number one, right, to start that domino effect, right? So the cause and effect, he committed these crimes or these assaults and these rapes, and the effects are they came after him later on. However, they didn't just come after him; it were the powers that be that we don't see. So for whatever reason, again, this is a perfect example of how they used the Me Too movement and the feminist movement to get rid of somebody. They set him up, and not because he didn't deserve to be set up. Yeah, he deserved to be set up. Um, and they definitely used that movement to do so. The next one is Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was like America's dad, and like I was watching Bill Cosby when I was a kid in the '70s in Sesame Street, Electric Company, and all this other. And now I'm aging myself, but I I saw Bill Cosby growing up. I would never think that Bill Cosby. Well, I'll change that. I would think that, but I would never. The thought would have never passed my mind that he was ever going to go to jail for sexual assault, and he did. Again, they used the Me Too movement, the feminist movement. How? If you ask me, and this is only personal, I mean, I did not conduct this research in detail where I could say, yeah, this is what really happened, but this is my opinion only. If you ask me, Bill Cosby was set up because he did not want to back down from acquisition that he wanted to conduct with NBC. He wanted to purchase NBC, but NBC didn't want to be purchased by him. Powers that be didn't want him to purchase NBC, right? For whatever reason, right? It could be racial reasons. It could be for a lot of reasons. But for whatever reason, they did not want him to purchase, and he could have. Bill Cosby was on top of the world. Anybody would have lent him money to purchase NBC, but they didn't want. So what did they do? They set him up. They set him up how? They kept looking, or they didn't have to look. I'm sure these things were there and people had complained before, but again, just like, nobody believes that Michael Jackson is a little weird and, sleeping with kids and stuff like that was swept under the rug. Same thing with Bill Cosby. They swept it under the rug. But however, when they needed to pull it out, what did they do? They lifted up the rug and pulled it out. Well, we need you. We need you. We're talking about he was he got he got literally he got prosecuted for things that happened like past like 10 years, 15 years ago, right? Of that date that he got prosecuted. But he got prosecuted on them, right? Because they could do that. And anything else would have just been turned away in court. So what's the best thing to use? Oh, let's use the feminine movement. Let's use the Me Too movement. Let's stir it up. Boom. Hence, he got locked up. Though the Supreme State Court of Pennsylvania did overturn it, but that was like 2 or 3 years later. So it was like, bad you. Who are you not to follow what we say? So he had to pay the price. So how are we going to get Bill Cosby? We just lift up the rug and pull out all the skeletons that were brushed under there. Hence, they got him. A third example, and this is a recent one. I mean, these are all recent, I mean, I guess. But this one's a little more recent, is Governor Cuomo. I kind of was like a fan of Governor Cuomo. You know what? He kind of like, not only myself, but I'm sure a lot of us, he consoled us during COVID, regardless of where we were at and how we were feeling. He was always there for us. He became very popular. He became more popular than the president. He became more popular than the person that was supposed to run for president. At that point in time, there was no clear person who was going to run, but we all knew Biden was going to run. And you know what? Again, I'm just speculating this. He became too famous and we had to bring him down. He would have been the next president if he would have ran. If we didn't put up and find a scandal to throw him under so we could hang him, or not we, but however the powers that be, then he would have ran for president. He would have been president. Biden wouldn't have been president, and we wouldn't be in half of the half of the problems that we're in or issues that we're in right now. I do believe Cuomo was a very smart person, and he was also a great leader. However, they used again the Me Too movement. They used the feminist movement to oust him out. So he was forced to resign in 2021 because of sexual misconduct. If he did not resign, he wasn't going to resign at first. I think he had one or two women who popped up saying that he touched them inappropriately somewhere or another. Then he was still going against the grain and saying, "Nah, I'm not resigning." Then 2, 3, 4, 5. They just kept throwing him at him. They kept going under the rug and pulling stuff out until he said, "You know what? I'm going to resign. I think that's the best thing to do." And hence, that's what he did. Um, you know, he just wasn't in the plans. the political plans that the Democratic Party had. They had somebody else in mind to run, and they had to make sure that he stepped down, whether he liked it or not. With that said, Michael, that's where the feminist movement is right now. However, it has been replaced. Not it has been replaced, like replaced. It's still there. The feminist movement, the Me Too movement is still there. It's just not being used. Why? They had found a better movement to use. Why? The feminine movement can only use and utilize women to oust people out or to help get people, I could say, blackmail people. So now what they use the LGBTQ movement, which has taken over or has taken precedence over the Me Too movement, right? Why? Because with that movement, we can use anything. Come on. We have, come on, LGBTQT, and they just keep adding on things as they go. So everything falls in. The spectrum of that movement is so wide that I can accuse you for anything under that movement and say, yeah, you definitely did that. Whatever it was. Yeah, it falls under that movement. Yes, you did. And this is where the feminine movement is right now. It has been sidestepped. So it's like it's become the stepchild instead of the poster child. So I hope I was able to shed some light on this for you, but it still exists. So don't do dumb shit to women, Michael. So this way you're not part of that Me Too movement and you don't bring it back. Again, thanks, and thank you for listening.